Yeah, so so everybody's trying to blame China now. That's the new thing. You got to find the victim. You got to find not a victim, but you got to find a guilty party for everything because again, the big move covers the little move. So the big move is coronavirus covering the little move, which is the collapsing economy. Now blame China. That's the new thing. Here's the deal. There's no way. We'll watch a couple of things, and I'll say this again. I'll say it now, and then I'll say it at the end. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there is no way of proving beyond the shadow of a doubt who patient zero is, how exactly this thing evolved. The only way you would find that out if, for example, if it was a synthetic virus, coronavirus, if it was a synthetic virus manufactured in a lab and then used as a bioweapon, if that evidence can be revealed, if there is evidence of such, then we would, if we saw it, then we can maybe draw the conclusion that there was, in fact, a bioterrorist attack. However, the evidence doesn't support that. Right? That's just a theory. That's a conspiracy theory based on no evidence whatsoever, based on pure speculation. The only thing that we do know, and what was commonly believed 2 months ago is that the evolution of coronavirus is what I'm talking about, because you have a world, politics right now trying to find a guilty party and then charge them for it. They're actually talking about the British are talking about taxing China trillions of dollars, $4 trillion for not revealing the details of the coronavirus while it was in Wuhan. But they're trying to go one step further and actually say that a laboratory in China did it. Now, it could be true, but there is no evidence to suggest it. There's also, like, is it a biohazard or is it just? I thought coronavirus crawled out of bat soup. So that's what I'm talking about today, right? So it's like, you can't blame China. Look, all the economic problems were already in place before before any of this shit even started. And the other thing about the spread of corona is that, for example, in late January, I was already sick. I had every symptom: the cough, the hallucinogenic dreams, the fever, the hot, the cold, the flash, the hot, oh, I'm fucking freezing, oh, I'm fucking sweating all day long, cough, 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 10 days of fever. I had that shit. You can look at the videos. Look at my videos at the end of January. While the alleged epidemic was happening in Wuhan, China. Not saying China's innocent. China clearly did not reveal to the international community all of the information they had. And that's a given. That's what China does. That's not surprising. But to say that China is wholly responsible for Wuhan, for the spread of coronavirus from Wuhan, is circumstantial at best. So that's what I'm saying at this point. There's no proof, and we'll probably never find out. Just like with the AIDS epidemic. We never found out who patient zero conclusively was. Now, again, the other scenario is if it was a bio attack, and you can get actual believable, convincing evidence that a reasonable person would believe, not some conspiracy hoopla, not some fake dossier about China and a laboratory, but if you can get credible evidence that a reasonable person, like, I don't know, someone like myself would say, yeah, that's reasonable, that's reasonably believable evidence with witnesses and photographs and time frames and everything revealed to the public, not some speculative bull fucking shit that they run down the hallway and get an indictment for, a fake indictment like they did with Julian Assange. But something credible. If credible evidence surfaces that China, a laboratory in China squeaked out some coronavirus by accident or intentionally, then that's good information. But we don't have anything like that. Nada. Nothing. And does it really matter? Is the point. Does it really, really matter? It doesn't, in my view. None of it. It doesn't matter if you find out. Did the egg come before the chicken? All right, or was it the chicken first? Did the chicken lay the egg, or was the egg there and then the chicken evolved out of the egg? Then where did the egg come from, and where did the chicken come from? You don't. It doesn't matter. Is the point? The real problem is the economic crisis. So here's the spin. Let's listen. Oh yeah, before we do that, check this shit out, right? So if you ever, right, people are worried about the germs on their money, right? You touch shit, right? When you touch stuff, you want to disinfect. You want to disinfect, right? So a couple of smart people said, you know what? When you touch money carries germs, right? So you want to clean your money, and this is how you do. You put it in a microwave, right? Put your money in the microwave, and look what happens, right? Pow! Fucking look at these asses. Look at his asses. This is allegedly $1,100 put in the microwave. Fucking idiots, right? Fucking retards. Put their money. I don't know if that would actually happen, but that is some funny shit, man. Maybe the money was wet. They tried to rinse the money off, and they throw that shit in the oven, man. Not in the oven, in the microwave. $1,100 up in smoke, man. Poof. So don't do that, man. Don't fucking wash your cash. You could submerge cash in alcohol or water. You could, if you think your money is polluted or money has germs on it, you could just cover, put some on your hands or on a rag and stroke your money. Just stroke your money, right? Or you could actually submerge. Bills don't fall apart. Dollar bills don't fall apart because they get wet. It's like a super paper that doesn't fall apart. And then you just dry it off, with a hairdryer or something. Or just leave it there. Just leave it there and money dries. But don't put your money in the microwave, you idiot. So watch this video. Here's the spin. A bunch of crackers in England are trying to pin the coronavirus ordeal on China. Listen.
Does China owe Britain billions of pounds from its botched reaction to the coronavirus pandemic? How should Britain respond to China in a post-coronavirus world? These are important questions for the West to answer moving forward, with debate already underway as to what the response should be to Beijing. Matthew Henderson of the Henry Jackson Society believes that China should pay the West for its...
Now, leaning on a jack-off, right, from the Henry Jackson Society, just for the record. Henry Jackson, he was an American senator in the 40s and the 50s. What the fuck? He's been dead 100 years. But here's the HenryJacksonSociety.org. Always look at your sources. Who are these people sourcing? What's the monetary interest in spreading this story? It's control. It's power. It's always what it is. It's always fucking power. So listen to the rest of it. It's based on no evidence, no genuine people with actual research skills.
Alleged breaking of international treaties, and with his peers, he has released a report saying so. I start off by asking him how much he believes China owes the West.
Our report recognises that the damage already caused is just the start, but you have to start somewhere. Based on figures that have been published by the G7 countries, that is Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Britain and the United States, concerning what they've already spent on dealing with the pandemic, the cost so far for the G7 adds up to £3.2 trillion or $4 trillion. The costs will rise.
He said 3.4 trillion with a T. Right? He said it with a straight face too, right? So this Jackie Offie, right, is jumping on the bandwagon trying to say, with no evidence on the table, that somehow China owes Britain and the West trillions of dollars for the leak, for the fucking Wuhan leak, for the coronavirus leak, for the flu, for the exaggerated flu, for the super flu, Jew flu, whatever you want to call it. All right? Is China see now the economics kick in? How these guys are trying to hang that shit on fucking China's head. So it's like I said, this is bullshit. Right? So let's keep going. Right? So Trump, I only think we're going to get 30 minutes out of this because that's about the time, I don't know, that YouTube starts to attack. Hopefully it's a passing thing. I know it's nothing on my end. There's nothing different, right? There's nothing different that I've been doing. So I sense that after 30 minutes, YouTube just gets fucking tired of us and starts to shut it down. So I don't know. When it starts, right now we have a very good signal. So we'll just keep going until it starts to get chopped up, and then I'll bail out because I can't deal with that shit, man. I just can't deal with it. So Trump administration wants to work directly with Wuhan Institute on virology. Trump the virologist. Surprisingly, even CNN has much blatantly and very unexpectedly started posing critical. The thing to keep in your mind is, why are they trying to blame China? Why? Why China? Why now China? China makes 90% of our drugs. They make 80% of our toilet paper. They make 100% of everything else. Why? Why now? Why China? Why now? Right? Last week 2 weeks ago it was the trade embargo. 3 weeks ago it was fucking communism. 8 weeks ago it was some other bullshit. Right? It's all bullshit. China is just a competitor. So read it. When you listen to stuff like this, think of it as not a danger in any way, but a dangerous competitor who's competing for market share on the world stage. Surprisingly, even CNN, much blatantly and very unexpectedly, started posing critical questions centered on the Wuhan Institute of Virology while doing a review of various theories as to COVID-19's origins. So, who owns CNN? That is the billionaires, the billionaire class, the corporate media, corporate U.S. media is now trying to pin it on China that they're guilty of it. Not so you can't say that the economy collapsed because it's a fucking bubble and it's fake and it's a debt market, right? You can't do that, right? So you got to blame somebody. Get the hate going with China because a war with China, a military conflict with China is great for business, right? Because they're one of the few. There's still China and Russia are still two major, countries, entities that refuse to join the blob, join the American, empire blob to acclimate, to become part of, to assimilate. Like the Borg, right? China has no interest in that and never will. Russia certainly doesn't have an interest. It doesn't need it. And for example, and they could fight back, but if you can't fight back, you end up like Venezuela. You end up vilified, starved. The poor people always get vilified and starved, just like, all of South America. But China, and that's the real shit going on. It's a fucking power grab. Blame China for it. Blame China. Yeah, they owe us $4 trillion. Fucking give more money to these jackoffs over here. What's their names? The Henry Jackson Society. Yeah, they're experts. They give it to them, man. They fucking know what they're talking about. That's what's going on, man. So let's keep going. You keep going. So Trump administration wants to work directly with the Wuhan people. Right? So CNN is plugging this thing. CNN on Monday cited that one expert, a chemical biology professor and bioweapons expert at Rutgers University, has suggested to several media outlets that the lab accident theory has credence. The lab accident theory has credence. Look, the essence of where COVID-19 evolved, how it sprung about, will always be a theory until there is evidence. Just like all of the religions that you may believe in are all theories. There is no evidence of any of it. Right? Even the one that I like, Buddha. What a great story, but there's no solid evidence. There is some evidence that a Buddha lived and all that stuff, and he meditated and he perfected his mind, and then that's why people were so powerful mind, right? But there's no evidence of anybody walking this planet that was godly. There is no. These are theories which require faith. I said fate. You follow what I'm saying? So theory. There's facts. Excuse me. There's facts, things that are factual, and then there's theory. Right? This is a theory. This is a theory that China somehow poisoned the mind stream and sent farted out, leaked out coronavirus. Right? Just a theory. One expert. So the expert says that there's some credence, but no evidence. The possibility that the virus entered humans through a laboratory accident cannot and should not be dismissed. Well, I agree with that. It cannot and should not be dismissed, but it shouldn't be held as evidence and say, now you owe us $4 trillion. A big difference. This comes more than 2 months after the mainstream media went ballistic over posing the same questions. All right. So that's all I'm saying right there. A senior Trump administration official urged China on Tuesday to allow the United States to work directly with laboratories in Wuhan on research into the novel coronavirus, saying this was critical to saving lives globally. Well, again, no evidence. It's politics, and that's the way it is. So what is that all hiding? What are we really hiding? What are we really talking about? We're talking about crashing markets. We're talking about a couple of things. Let's look at them one by one. Online lender suspends redemptions, shuts down amid flood of defaults. Unemployment surge. Unemployment surge. Online lenders shutting down, right? Squeezing the credit. Right? You think you're sitting on a pile of credit cards, but watch what happens when times get tough. All the banks cut that credit in half, a third, a fifth, a tenth. All right, so you think you got $5,000 in credit? Oh, I'm good. I got $5,000 in credit. I can eat for 6 months with that. All right, and then all of a sudden you go to check your credit line. Oh, we reduced you to 200. That's what they did in 2008. The same deal. Some people. They just cut their credit cards. If you apply for unemployment, they say, "Oh, fucking this guy's got no job," and they cut your credit. All right, ruthless. Banks are ruthless. So don't get too fucking comfortable, right? Credits are going to start to get cut, right? You think, again, I got a stack of credit cards. I don't even fucking use them. I use cash. I use whatever. I use one card, right? People, theoretically, I have credit, but that's what I'm trying to say. At some point, check your credit rating, and I bet they're in the process of now squeezing the testicles and knocking people off credit. So unemployment surging up, probably going to be 25-30% in the U.S. Probably is already right now. We don't know because no one could get through to the fucking phone line. You can't call. You keep calling unemployment. Sorry, we're very busy right now. Please call back later, you motherfucker. That's what we're getting, right? You call up and you can't get through, right? So nobody knows what the unemployment rate is right now. People can't get through. They try once, they try twice, and they never try again. People like me try 500 times and get halfway through the process and keep going, and maybe they'll get to the other 500 times. Maybe they'll do another 500 times and get through once. So unemployment surging. Creditors now starting to squeeze. Here's a good, this is interesting. A writer, her name is, what's her name? I forgot her name. So, what's her name? What's the fucking bitch's name? What's her name? Oh, yeah. Caitlyn Johnson writes. Caitlyn Johnson, I subscribe to this newsletter. Listen to this. Napoleon Bonaparte once said, China is a sleeping giant. Let her sleep, for when she wakes, she will shake the world. Preventing the rise of China and its loose network of unabsorbed nations like China. Unabsorbed meaning absorbed into the American ethos, the American way, the American empire. Right? Those who resist has been a lasting agenda of the Western world for generations, and the continuation of this agenda has set the world on a trajectory toward aggressive confrontation. Aggressive confrontation is inevitable. The U.S. has been surrounding China with military bases, many of them nuclear armed, in preparation for a confrontation that it sees as ultimately inevitable. Since China has no interest in being absorbed into the U.S. power alliance, and the U.S. has no interest in allowing China to surpass it as a superpower. Conflict. China has no interest in U.S. power, and the U.S. has no interest in letting China get beyond their power. Who's responsible there? China's just growing because their system of growth works right now. They raised how many millions of people out of poverty? People that were eating, living hand to mouth. China did amazing work lifting the lowest of the low out of poverty. We haven't done anything close to what China has done in terms of eradicating poverty in our own country. Our poverty levels have been the same, homeless levels the same, getting more. Our homeless levels are increasing. In China, they've gone down, significantly, dramatically. Right? So that's the real essence of what's going on here. Pin China and say, yeah, coronavirus, right? It was anything. It doesn't matter. Last week it was trade deal. It doesn't matter. Sink China. So what this means for us ordinary people is that we have found ourselves smashed between steady increasing escalations between two nuclear-armed nations and their nuclear-armed allies, hurtling toward a confrontation which benefits none of us in the slightest, while propagandists spoon-feed us narratives about why this is something we should inevitably support. So that's what I'm trying to say there, man. So how we doing in the chat? What are we getting attacked? Are we getting trolled? Am I saying too many nice things about China? Too many nice things about China? I don't know. So good morning, everybody. Good morning, Walking Axe. Good morning, Vinny DiMartini in the house. Be nice and don't be a dick, and you won't get chopped out. Sassafras in the house. Colossal Big Shot. 6'6" Design. JJ Sassafras and Willie Dig. Keith Byrne. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. We're learning about the Chinese and how they're always blamed for everything, but it's like the old expression, when you point your finger, three are pointing back at you. See that? See, I point the finger at you, you did it. He did it. That guy over there. See that guy over there? The fucking guy over there did it, right? Well, that guy over there did it. Right? You did it. And meanwhile, the other one thing is for you, three is for me. Right? That's how this shit works. Right? Stop pointing the fingers, mofo. So, almost half of small business will close if they could not reopen soon. Didn't Conte tell you that a while ago? Who said that? I said that the stimuli package that benefits the six large banks that got 10, how many trillions of dollars? 4 trillion, 6 trillion? We don't even know how many trillion. They got 2.5 trillion on the books with leverage for another 4.5 trillion. Plus, they get money, the Fed will pump money into the market. Once the stock market tanks a little bit, they got to need another trillion. Hit us up, we need another trillion. So I told you that by shutting down businesses in the coronavirus pandemic, whether it's correct or not, leaves the small businesses and working class people of this country high and dry. And that's that's the real motherfucker that's coming. Right? That is the real tsunami that is coming when half of these corporations, listen to the stats and I'll tell you what's going on. Right? So in a new survey of small business owners, almost half, 43% say their livelihood is on the line and they are going to be forced to close permanently if they cannot resume normal activities soon. 43% of small businesses are saying this. How many banks have said it? Huh? How many banks have come forward and say, we're gonna have to shut the doors if we can't resume normal activity? No, because they've got the blank check, and then because they're in the business of making money for themselves. They're now going to allocate that money given to them and they're responsible for the bailout. That's what the Fed does. The Fed cuts the money to the banks because that's all they do. That's the only system in place because of deregulation throughout the 90s. We have no more people who manage money. The banks do it. That's what deregulation does. It forces you to give the money and the power to criminal enterprises like the 6 large banks. And here we go. So now, because of this allegation to the 6 criminal banks, 43% of small businesses say they are fucked. 1 in 10 are less than 1 month away from permanently going out of business. What? So 1 in 10. That's actually, I don't believe that. I think that number would probably be higher. So 1 in 10 is out of business. But I think, like, for example, most people, human beings, are living paycheck to paycheck. And that's the people that have a job. If 60, 70, 80% of people are living paycheck to paycheck, we're already a month into this, right? And people get paid, twice a week? So there are already people starting to hurt. The next is going to be hunger. There's going to be people fucking hungry, and people that have never been hungry before, too proud to poke their head up and say, you know what? I'm fucking hungry, man. I need some help. All right. What else? No, there's more. There's more. Stand by. Worse than 2008? We're being warned that the shutdown could collapse the mortgage market. Oh, that too? That too. They're going to collapse small business, collapse the mortgage market, right? And all the mortgages, the banks will do fine. They'll get bailed out. They're leveraged in the stock markets and leveraged in the bond markets, 10 to 1, 20 to 1. Doesn't matter. U.S. government just add a zero to the debt. Doesn't fucking matter. Right? So they'll get bailed out. And now, in 2008, the banks walked away with most of the mortgages in the country. Now, I don't know the exact statistics, but many people lost their houses and lost their opportunity to own a house, got pushed out of their house because of the mortgage squeeze, because they couldn't pay. They didn't have the money to pay the mortgage, and again, a shift of power, a shift of equity to the banks. So the banks took control of most people's houses and property in 2008. I don't know if most might be an exaggeration, but a whole lot of them. Now they're going for most. And here they're going for, as I said it all along. I said it, I couldn't be more, I mean, am I some kind of fucking genius? Am I some kind of economic genius? Because how come I could see this very clearly? How come I could see what's coming very clearly? And now you've got one article after another telling you that, oh shit, right? Small business. I saw it in the stimulus package. I thought, stimulus, you're supposed to give the money. It's supposed to be a grant, not a loan to pay back. It's like you're ordering small businesses to shut down. You've got to compensate for that, or you have to live with them being open in a free society. This is not a dictatorship. You can't order us shut down and say, "Oh, well, it's not an order. We're gonna give you a bailout when it's over." But they didn't do that. They cheated. They said, "Yeah, bailout," and then it turns out to be a fugazi loan with one of the 6 large banks that are looking to knock them down and put them out of business and run their business, control their business, get a controlling interest in every small fucking business, every small restaurant. You got a small restaurant, now it's Applebee's. Fuck you. All right? Now, you're making hamburgers down the corner? Great. Now it's Burger King. Fuck you. Right? So that's what they're doing. Right? That's how it works, right? So where was I? So we're being warned that the shutdown could collapse mortgage markets. Great. Fantastic, right? Oh, look at this. Global food chain wasn't designed for this. Global hunger. Global food supply chain wasn't designed for this. Really? I thought that we can handle anything. In the early 1980s, doctors and medical researchers around the world were confounded by the growing number of young, otherwise healthy patients who were dying of rare infections that typically can occur in people with very weak immune systems. The AIDS, see, again, the AIDS comparison that I was making yesterday, and every time I say it, the fucking thing goes, that's when YouTube starts to crash. So I'm going to try not to talk about it. But we are going to continue to look at drug interactions, how the COVID patients are being handled, the intubation process, and most importantly, and I had it in the headline, I haven't touched on it yet, but autopsies. We want to see more so than the origin, I'll just say it briefly, the more so the origin of where corona came from. If you want to prove that somehow it was a bioweapon or a bio attack, then you have to look at the autopsies of the dead and look at the toxicology. Was it aerosolized in some way where it attacked a portion of the lungs? Did it attack certain people in certain areas? You want to see the autopsies of the dead, because that's what's most revealing. If it was in fact gas attack, because the symptoms of lung filling up with liquid, or the sensation of feeling like you're drowning, is also very similar to breathing in toxic gas. It has the same effect on the lungs. The lungs start to fill with fluid. So, cautious, I don't know how you say the word, but corrosive gas. All right, so that's what you want to start to look at. Where are the autopsies? Where are the autopsies of the dead? That's what you want to look at. Where are the autopsies? Pile them up and start to look for consistencies, for similarities. Look in the toxicology. What kind of medications were these people on? What were their conditions prior to? What medications did they have in common? You want to talk about a way of killing mass people when China manufactures 90% of the drugs, and pharmacies can look, if you wanted to, here's a theory. This is a theory. This is not proven by any way. But if you wanted to, for example, if coronavirus or people are vulnerable to the flu twice a year, right? Rather than say, let's create a virus, right? We don't need to create a virus. Let's create a drug that when you take it, you become susceptible to that virus in a crazy, over-the-top way. So, again, coronavirus already existed. It existed in 5 to 15% of all people with the flu. So if you can create a drug that makes the people that they're taking this drug and they become more susceptible to coronavirus to the point of dying, to the point of becoming critically ill and needing to be intubated, then you would see that is a possibility. If you're looking for bioterror, look at the medications that people might have been taking prior to it. Just listen to it. Just think about that for 1 second. I mean, that's just a theory. I'm not a crackpot. I'm not spinning a conspiracy theory. I'm just saying that if you want, from a medical background, a medical perspective, if you wanted to attack someone with a certain ailment, you can create a drug that would make that would weaken that person's immune system. I'll leave it there. Right? So that's just a theory, and autopsies would reveal that. You would see it in the toxicology. What medications did the dead people have in common? What kind of ailments? I'm repeating myself now. So ventilators don't work. The people can compress and decompress their lungs. That I agree with that. John Gibson says that the ventilators. Why are they putting everybody on ventilators? Ventilators are a way of pushing. Ventilators destroy lung tissue, especially when they knock people unconscious. They intubate them, knock them unconscious, and then pump air oxygenated air into your lungs, pressing on the lowest, at the lowest cellular level, the alveoli level of the lungs, and ultimately burst them. You're causing lung damage when you're intubating people in the name of trying to save their lives. So that in effect may have been the reason why we're killing people. Maybe you should lift them out. I was miserable, fucking couldn't lift my head off the table, right? But I was strong, and I think by the third day I was so fucking miserable and I couldn't breathe. And you know what I did? I went out the door and I tried to run a quarter of a mile, breathing like a truck, coughing my ass off. Couldn't breathe, right? Trying to push the fucking phlegm as it built up, and I kept running. I kept walking fast. Fever, drinking water, a mess, right? But you know what I'm saying? Like that's a better idea, right? Your own body strength. Most people that die, they say, of coronavirus are dying of exhaustion because they can't breathe. They just every effort is a fucking breath. Every breath is an effort. Right? These are the things you have to look at. Why are we having a high death rate with corona? That's what I'm trying to say. It's just like the AIDS thing. It's just like the AIDS thing in the 80s. It's just like the AIDS thing. Everybody ran for cover. They're trying to, right? They're running to try to, right? Think about it, man. So the food chain is fucked. Right. In the early 1980s, doctors and medical researchers around the world were confronted. I just read that. I don't know what this article is about, but the headline caught my attention. But anyway, it has nothing to do with it. It has nothing. Where's the food, right? What the fuck are you talking about? The new facility won't be online. Blah, 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 blah. Tell me about food. Tell me about food. All right, I apologize. That's a stupid article. It doesn't mean anything. So here's another one. Fade the rip. Fade the rip. That's a Wall Street term. B of A warns bear market far from over unless we escape a recession. So this is all shit. This is all bullshit right here. Right? So the markets are bouncing. You heard? The markets are back up. Oh, 23,000 on the Dow. I'll tell you what it's all about. Ask 100 traders that what their biggest concern about the market is right now, and they will be the answer roughly 100 times. That will be the answer 100 times. Have we hit the bottom yet? No. Have we hit the bottom? Is the worst over? No. Right? And while the frazzled bulls will be quick to point to the recent massive surge as proof positive the lows have been hit, those with actual market experience, me, I have actual market experience, will tell you that what we have seen in recent weeks is nothing but a massive short squeeze. You know what a short squeeze is? A short squeeze is banks who, at the top, short. They sell the market short, and they buy it back when it gets cheaper, right? At this point, because there's no fucking economy. There's no reason. The first 2 quarters are going to be disastrous. There's no fucking profits to lean on. So why is the market going up? It's a short squeeze. They're covering. I had something else brilliant that I was just going to say, and I forgot what it was. So giant short freeze happening in the market right now. Look at the bounce. As they say, even a dead cat will bounce if you throw it out a window that's high enough. That's what the dead cat bounces. Here's my same chart. Remember, here's my trend lines. And we're bouncing off the bottom. See that? That's where we are today, right? Where are we right now? Where are we right now in the market? We are 166 up. 166 points up. Let me refresh. Yeah, 166 green. We've been green for, I think, about 3 days now. And what does that mean for you and me? It means nothing. It means nothing. Here's the 5-day. Here's the 5-day. See the little bounce off the bottom, 1 day up, whoop-de-doo, sideways, down, another bump up. But you got to look in perspective. The big picture is right there, right? This bottom line is where Trump came in. It actually broke that line. It just didn't. This is a weekly. If you look at the daily, you'll see that you'll see that that it actually crashed through that trend line. It went below the trend line for a day and closed below that trend line. So my trend line was accurate. So what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. The markets are getting short squeezed. So to say that, look, the economy is coming back, it's not coming back. Velocity of money is shit. Is shit right now. Is garbage. Velocity of money. What's velocity of money? Velocity of money means that when you give me money, a poor person, a guy who lives hand to mouth, right, who plays guitar in the subway and has to rely on people like you to give me fucking $5, right, to become a Patreon of the channel. Poor people, or people that don't have a lot of income, when you give me the $1,200 stimulus package, a stimulus check, I spend the whole thing. Why? Because that's all I know. Right? I don't have any money, right? I'm broke. Right? So you give me a stimulus package. This is the big takeaway, right? China, first of all, China is no more guilty today than they were yesterday. And to prove that China started the coronavirus from Wuhan is circumstantial at best. Right? There's no evidence, there's no proof of that. And to ask China for $4 trillion to bail out the world, including the U.S., who already gave $4 trillion to their own banks to bail out the world, is ridiculous. It's folly. It's retarded. Right? The real problem is velocity of money, is the fact that the stimulus, we have a government that all they know is the system is to create the money, create the bill that allocates the money, and then give it to the banks, the big banks. And they're supposed to trickle it down to everybody else in a way that is fair and equitable to everybody. But they don't do that. They hoard the money. So what you have in this situation is horrific velocity of money. And velocity of money is very simple. When you give a poor person like me $1,200, I spend it all. The money hits the market. Millions of people spending their stimulus checks. Velocity of money goes up for a little bit, and then once the money runs out, it goes down again. Now, that's only a little bit of the money. There's only $300 billion in stimulus money going to regular people. Right? But where's the other $10 trillion? If they would have given the money to everybody, you would have stimulated the economy. So when banks or billionaires, when you give them money, they don't need the money to live. They just hoard the money and say, oh, well, how are we going to make more money on the money that we are already hoarding? So they decrease the velocity of money. And there's the income and wealth inequality defined. Is that when it's monopoly, when a very few people have all of the pieces and all of the money, velocity of money is stagnant, and people are fighting for crumbs. It's the analogy of the, you're sitting at a table. You're sitting down at a table, right? And at the table, there's three people. There's a banker, there's a worker, and then there's an immigrant. There's three people sitting at the table, banker, worker, and immigrant. And on the table is 20 donuts. So 20 donuts on the table, right? And the banker takes 19 of the 20 donuts for himself. And then he turns to the worker and says, you better grab that last worker before the immigrant grabs it. That's the bankers do. They take 19 out of 20. They take 95% of the money for themselves and allocate the rest to the little people. So there you go, man. So Mark's Conte reporting.